Our general understanding of time, of space, of reality, it's a little bit skewed. It's quite limited. And so today I want to demonstrate to you exactly how we see time and our options versus what's really going on versus the truth. All right. So let's look at this board as the entire universe. Okay. Most of us will probably see it more the equivalent of maybe their reality, their world. But really, we can't just isolate our existence, our experience to one day or even one idea of reality, one perspective, right? We have to really look at it as the whole entire universe. So, because essentially everything is a microcosm of the universe, right? Even you, your physical body is a microcosm of the universe. So we're going to start by just looking at what I like to always do is start with you, right? Because as you know, everything starts and ends with you. Now, you, right, are an expression of the entire universe. You are an expression of what many people call God. You are an individual expression of God. You are having an experience called you. Now, when it comes to you and you living the life that you desire and figuring things out, right? Because we're all on this journey to figure things out and not everybody has it figured out, contrary to what you may think and what you may see on social media. I want you to understand that we're all on this journey. So you are here living this world. And what we are taught is that you are here and you are trying to achieve a certain existence, a certain reality, a certain lifestyle. You are trying to essentially be quote unquote successful because that's the word that we were given, right? We were brought up with this idea of achieving some level of success. Now, our parents told us to be successful. For many of us, especially my generation, right? I'm 48 years old currently. It was, go get a good job with a pension, 401k, retirement, things of that nature, right? Or really even before that, get a degree, go to college, right? But now things are shifting and those things don't really apply anymore. So, but anyway, nonetheless, we were given this idea of what success looks like. Success is supposed to be a representation of happiness. Okay. Now, we know that that's a little bit off, right? Because success does not equate to happiness. But for the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to try to keep it very simple and not go off on a tangent like I usually do. So we think in terms of our path to success like a linear, right? A linear journey, a linear experience. We look at this path the same way we look at time. Okay. This is our idea of how life and how our reality, how our universe works. The issue with this is that it's coming from a limited point of view. Okay. So, and the issue with this is it is limited in the scope or the direction. Okay. Look at this. You have all of this available to you, but we are told that life must go this way. We are told by our parents, we're told by our community, we're told by society that life is supposed to go this way. This is what it looks like to be successful, right? Marriage, let's see, kids, career, right? Oh, can't forget the house, right? Oh, and then of course, retire. Okay. Now, there is essentially really nothing wrong with these things, but the issue is that very well may not be you when it comes to what success looks like. Okay. And that's the truth. And this is what is happening to most of us. We are constantly thinking that this is a success just because it was told to us, rather than the true reality of the universe, the true reality of the many infinite versions of self, and how to achieve success. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to imagine that this is, let me erase this. I want you to imagine that this is you, and you are in essentially the middle of the lake, right? You're in the middle of a lake, right? Let me do that better. You're in the middle of a lake. This is all water, okay? Outside of the lake is your options, right? These are all different experiences outside of this lake where there is land, okay? This is symbolic, so bear with me. Now, we were told, okay, in order for me to be successful, in order for me to hit land, I have to go in this particular direction, okay? And this is the only option that we have, right? The option of the traditional job, marriage, family, maybe even perhaps go to church, have a good career, save your money, retire, and then pass away to the next life. And then if you have some really interesting beliefs, then hopefully you did everything right and you go somewhere nice after you transition to the next life. So our path on this lake, you imagine a lake, and imagine one of those lakes with stones, okay? And these stones are your path essentially toward success and happiness. So, each one could be, this one could be marriage, right? This one could be kids, or let me do this right. Let me do this in the right order. So most people would say career first, marriage, kids, retire equals success. Okay. And this essentially is the path that many of us think we are supposed to go on. And many of us do go on this path. But notice across this path on these stones, from where you were plopped in the middle of the universe, right? This is the only path that you were told that exists. But you notice on this path, nobody mentioned spirituality, personal fulfillment, well-being, mental health, things of that nature. No, forget all that, right? Just get these things, accumulate these things, and you'll be successful. That is really, in actuality, essentially, that is just simply one path. You have other paths that you can take, okay? You have a path here. I'm trying to draw this in a particular way. Let's see. You have a path here. You have a path here. Okay. In every direction possible, you have a path that you can take to get you to an expression or an experience called success, right? Essentially, success is everything outside of this lake, right? Everything where there is land, that is success. Now, here's the thing. It doesn't have to be this traditional linear idea of how you amass and accumulate and experience the success. Okay. So remember, I'm really talking about two things at the same time. I'm talking about the path of life but I'm also talking about a linear idea of time, right? So most people think life happens in a straight line like this, but in actuality, it happens in infinite ways. It can happen where it's not straight, it is non-linear. And that's the reality of how we experience life. It is really, you as an infinite being are not a linear being, right? You go beyond space and time, but you're encapsulated in this physical body. So you think just because this physical body is linear in terms of aging, right? In terms of our understanding and our communications of time, when you say, hey, let's meet at 2:00, our life is functioned around that. So we have a higher regard and respect for it, but we don't acknowledge that that's not a fundamental reality of the universe, right? That's just how we function as a society. So how we can truly experience and should truly experience life is, say, we go this path, and this path may mean, we just go travel. Okay. But that doesn't mean we have to go in this direction. Okay. Just because we pick a different path, we can go from travel to, studying spirituality. Okay. We can go from studying spirituality back up, what seems to be back up another direction to, let's say, going somewhere to learn the language. And then we can perhaps go this way to, learn a hobby, right? We can function in a place that is all over, and we're jumping from one stone to the next. Eventually, we get to a point where we say, okay, we're going to go from a hobby to, let's say, a business idea. Okay. And then we go to another place where we, fall in love and decide we're going to move and live in a whole completely different country. So do not limit your life experience to this limited American traditional and European traditional, actually, idea of life and success. Okay. You are infinite, meaning you can take multiple different paths. And in actuality, on a quantum physics level or understanding, you actually have taken all these different paths. Okay. They are all existing at the same time. You, in this now present moment, have to just simply align with the path that you want to take. We're talking about following your intuition, following your present, current desires. Okay. What are you curious about? What do you want to learn? What fascinates you? Okay. What are you interested in? That is going to take you to different places in your life. Okay. That is not going to, a lot of people think that they need to be so tunnel vision and focused on one traditional path. And for some people that works. Some people are okay living this traditional life, where it's like for lack of a better word, you're a square. You're just following and just being like, like your corners are clear, your path is clear, and you're not interested in anything else. Some people function that way, and that's okay for them. At least we have no right to say otherwise. They only have the right to say if they're happy or not. But you have to ask yourself, are you, right? Is that the way you want to go for yourself? Now, even because for many people, what happens is they take this traditional path of life, get the career, get married, have children, and retire. Sometimes people have a serious spiritual awakening, they get the career, right? They may even get married, but they may decide that doesn't resonate with them anymore, right? So then they take this path here, get divorced, right? And then they go somewhere completely different because their consciousness or some experience, maybe something happened in the marriage, which led them to divorce. And then that opened up the possibilities for them to say, you know what? I was married and I was restricted, or I didn't feel able to explore these things that were on my mind. So now this marriage didn't work out. I can then go to another direction, right? So that's essentially truly how life works on a macro, right? On a micro scale, meaning in life, but also on a macro scale in lives, right? In versions of you. So there's layers to this. And also this demonstration, this diagram here doesn't just function, and it doesn't just work on a 2-dimensional level. Okay. It's not just up, down, right, left. It actually comes out front and back as well. So there are infinite paths that you can take in life. And that's what I want you to understand. You are unique. You are special. Okay. You have a multitude of talents and gifts. You have a unique purpose in life. Do not limit yourself. Do not restrict. Do not allow society to tell you otherwise when you have a significant purpose, okay, in life. So you have to really take ownership of that. And my goal here is just to bring it to your awareness so that way you recognize it and say to yourself, you know what, Peter, Dr. Abundant, he's right. Like, this is exactly what I needed to understand in order for me to break free from, let's say, the rat race. You know, you don't have to go this path. We are thinking life is linear. We're thinking life is a matter of checking the boxes. And, you know, to a degree, there can be that. And it doesn't have to be, and it's not really a straight line. No matter if you want to, there's some things that's just going to throw you a little bit off. What I want you to understand is that life is, you know, I already gave you the demonstration. It's expansive, okay? More so than expansive, meaning that it expands, it goes all out in different directions. You are living in those different versions and realities of yourself. But also, it can even appear to be some level of messiness, but I like to compare it to a spiral, you know, where it is actually moving, right, like this. Okay. Until you finally hit land. But as you are moving, you are hitting different things. Okay. Whereas most people think that you're supposed to do it like this. They think you're supposed to go in this straight line. But in actuality, you're going in a spiral of spiritual experiences that may lead to, you know, eventually you may say, you know what? I do want to focus on my career. And as I focus on my career, I do want to learn another language. I do want to travel, right? I do want to have an experience, a hobby. I do want to build a business. I do want to, you know, learn how to, you know, create pottery or knitting, crocheting, maybe playing rugby. I'm just saying all types of random stuff, right? But if that's your journey, so be it. And then you get to a point where you come back around to what we thought is the linear path of success. And then you say, all right, I met somebody amazing on this journey of discovering and recognizing me. And yeah, let's get married. And they're on the same understanding of and path as you. And so together, now you are moving in this space, right? You see how more fulfilling life is when you go in this direction, when you acknowledge that this is the direction that life should actually be going in, rather than just focusing on these basic things and just going in this straight line. This is what I'm talking about. This is how life works and should work. This is what you should be seeking in your life. You should be looking to experience life in its fullness. Okay? It all should be full. You should touch every possibility and experience it. Gives you perspective. One of the most fascinating and most beautiful people are those who are curious, and they have this wanderlust, right? Where they just continue to wonder and experience new things. Some people call them hippies. Some people assume that if you live like that, you're not responsible. But they end up being the most successful people in the world because they have a life full of experiences where they can pull from, right? And then they stumble across these basic things that society says we're supposed to have anyway, and then create an amazing life based on what they know of themselves. And they know that means, right, something to them, right? A life that means something to them because they had all these experiences and memories and perspectives to pull from. So I just really wanted to share that with you because I had a vision of it. And, I've been really obsessing with this idea that, as an infinite being, we should not be confined to finite paradigms. And we should always, I'm not saying to dismiss them. I'm not saying to disregard certain paradigms, especially if they serve you. What I'm asking you to do, though, is to simply question if they do serve you, okay? Really, authentically, if they serve you. And when I mean you down to the core, your consciousness. Are you fully happy and fulfilled? Or are you just going with the status quo? Do not just go with the status quo, because at the end of the day, meaning life, and if you see it coming, you will have some regrets, most likely, or you will not be able to transition from a place of joy and gratitude and saying to yourself, you know what? I did it all. I did everything that I wanted to do. I did everything that I felt I could do. And I pushed the limits. I was adventurous. And now it's time to go and transition to the next reality and then do it there as well. You see? So question it all. Questioning doesn't mean disrespect. It doesn't mean a lack of faith. It doesn't mean you're doubting. Questions really means that you are seeking to learn more, that you recognize that there is something precious in the thing, even if the thing doesn't align with you. When you question it, you still gain insight that is extremely valuable to you. So, and that equates to wisdom. All right. And that's essentially all I want to say today. All right. So success just is about the continuous movement through life and recognizing that, this center, which is you are the center of the universe, believe it or not. Okay. You being the center means that everything that you experience is something that is meant for you, right? So embrace it. Don't come into life or let life be dictated by some idea or concept, right? That European, American, your family, your culture, your religion, those things tell you this is the way you're supposed to live. If they tell you this is the way you're supposed to live and you find out, oh yeah, I like that. Okay, great. You kind of got lucky in a way. But though I don't wish that on anybody, because I always suggest and recommend to everybody that we don't just live this small little fraction of the large universe and all of the possibilities. right? We should be experiencing it all and gaining wisdom and insight about you, because it all comes back to you. It's all about you. And I don't mean that in a egotistical way, right? I mean that in a very beautiful, empowering, and spiritual way. It starts with you, right? Meaning it starts with you, you radiate it out, you put it out there, and then it comes back. So I use the metaphor of this being a lake, this large circle being a lake, and you are the circle in the middle of the lake. So you think of you, say if you are in the middle of a lake or if you're on top of a lake and you drop something in the middle of the lake, right? Maybe a rock, right? Another rock. You drop this big rock in the middle of the lake. That rock is a representation of you. What happens when you drop that big rock in the middle of the lake? It sends out a ripple, a bunch of ripples, right? It ripples out and goes all over the place throughout the lake. It spreads completely evenly throughout the lake in a large circle. Once it hits the edge, right? Once it hits the outer ring of the lake, guess what does it do then? It comes back. Okay. So it goes out, the ripple goes out. And then once it hits this, right? Once it hits the edge of the lake, then it starts to come back to you. That's the universe. That's how the universe works. So whatever you are radiating out, whatever ripples you are putting out into the universe is going to send that back to you. So be mindful about this. Allow yourself to experience the totality, all that is of the universe. Allow yourself to recognize that you are not this moment, even though this moment will determine what you create, right? You're not defined by it, right? You're not defined by anything but consciousness, but your awareness. So remember, you are the center of the universe, regardless of what people may say, regardless of the negative connotation of that statement. You are. All right. Everything you do, everything you don't do, you experience from the universe. Right? You put it out into the universe responds to it. All right. So with that, understand that you have infinite options and you should be trying to experience as many of those options as you can in this lifetime. So you can have a great sense of appreciation and gratitude for life rather than those people who stay caged in their home, right? All they're doing is watching TV and they're not fully experiencing life and all that's available to them. All right. So I thank you for watching. Feel free to go check out the Future Frequency book at futureselffrequency.com. You could also go to drabundant.com where you can get chapter 1 for absolutely free. So till next time, peace and abundance always.